Before we begin the video, I would like to give a shout out to our newest downloader, Tristan Ruby. Welcome to the channel. You are our 98th subscriber. Just 2 subscribers away from our 100 subscriber goal. Thank you once again, Tristan Ruby, for subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's begin. Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drayhon, and welcome to another episode of Character Concept, where normally we would take a look at the different races within Dungeons & Dragons and see what characters we can build based off of the lore of those races. Today, however, I am taking a look at the SCP Foundation. I actually had a request from one of my dear viewers, Ag Silva Radio, asking if I can do some of the anomalies found within the SCP database. I did tell Silva that some of them would be possible, some of them would not. But I also said it would actually be fitting to first talk about the personnel within the walls of the SCP Foundation before talking about the anomalies. So what is the SCP Foundation? The SCP Foundation is, well, a foundation for SCPs. The SCPs are specific anomalies, whether it be areas, creatures, or just everyday objects that are, well, hazardous in some cases. SCP Foundation stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, or at least that is their slogan. The SCPs are actually, well, special containment procedures made to contain those specific anomalies. Within the SCP Foundation, you have the security guards and the mobile task force units, the different researchers and scientists that help analyze these special anomalies, and the D-class personnel, what I would like to call the guinea pigs of the SCP Foundation. They are also used for bait when it comes to attracting the anomalies for capture. There are currently, as of this video, 6,999 different anomalies within the different walls of the SCP Foundation. How many branches there are is uncertain. I have been unable to figure that out. Most of the sites are redacted. So, that leaves us with how can we create an SCP personnel if we have an SCP-style campaign from our Dungeon Masters. Well, let's go ahead and start off with the D-class personnel. This one was a bit tricky to figure out, as well, they're D-class personnel. They are the lowest ranking members of the SCP Foundation under the anomalies. What are they exactly? Well, they are death row inmates who have been, well, falsely put through death row. What I mean is their deaths have been faked. After they have been declared dead, according to the eyes of the law, they were taken to the different SCP Foundation buildings where they are used as guinea pigs, lab rats, test subjects, and bait for the various SCPs. One D-class personnel actually became an SCP, if I recall. Either way, what would classify a death row inmate for Dungeons & Dragons? Well, with death row inmates, it's actually very odd, because you have to be a death row inmate. So, what does that entail? A death row inmate is a death row inmate because of a few factors. Either they have been charged with espionage, let's see, what was it? Treason. Some gang-related crimes, or they had killed a judicial official. So a judge, a lawyer, a jury member of certain cases, or even a witness from a certain case. That would classify you as a death row inmate. You get the death penalty. So that would classify you as a D-class personnel. With that in mind, backgrounds would be criminals, pirates, spies, and smugglers. For your class, the only one that makes sense is the rogue. For your roguish archetype, the assassin, thief, mastermind, and inquisitive would be your most likely choices to fit with these death row inmates. What about the scientists and researchers? That is our next subject. Well, obviously, we need background in either sage, archaeologist, or anthropologist. The most common classes would probably be your artificers, more specifically the alchemist. Rogue would be next, with the roguish archetype being inquisitive. Now, there are, but a lot of the time, a holy man is going to be involved. So some of the researchers would probably be clerics, whether that be arcana, mind, in the case one of these so-called holy men are actually reality benders, which is one of the classifications of SCP, or grave clerics, which would actually make sense since some of these SCPs are rather supernatural, to say the least. And the last one for today is going to be the guards and mobile task force unit members, such as city slickers or the nine-tailed fox. For these individuals, you will probably want the background of soldier, marine, mercenary veteran, or faceless. This is to reference the City Slickers Mobile Task Force, since they are meant to look like everyday people just to spot the anomalies or keep track of the anomalies. More often than not, you'll probably have a Mobile Task Force unit member or even a guard be a fighter, with the martial archetypes being Battlemaster, Renegade, Gunslinger, or Scout. Scout can actually be found in the Unearthed Arcana. For Rogue, I would say the roguish archetypes are Assassin and Scout, since more often than not, the Mobile Task Force unit members, or even the guards, are going to be given a kill command for certain SCPs, or even other Foundation personnel. Now, you're probably wondering, what about the Council members, or the Council of Five? Well, I don't have any information on them, so they are not in this video. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. On Thursday, we will be doing one of the SCPs as per the request of Ag Silver Radio. So thank you once again for that recommendation. Now, you didn't give any specifics, so I decided to choose a random SCP that would best fit the requirements of this channel. So until then, my dear viewers, I do hope you enjoyed. And with that, this has been Drehan, and I am offline.